bulk.
Het jy daai braaier met 'n bietjie braaier uit die pad uit hoor?
Nee, dit lyk sharp.
Okay, alright, let's go. Okay, welcome guys. This is a bit of a different video that we definitely thought we needed to make. It's going to be a bit more of a technical video. That's why Mr. Technical himself is sitting here, Paul Webner. And we're going to speak today about everything shot placement on specifically
Rooibok.
Impala.
I don't know what the Latin name is.
Latin Impalacus Impalacus. Got it. Yeah, we're gonna do everything shot placement. We're gonna analyze some clips here, quartering away, quartering towards, good shots, bad shots. Mostly of the shots that are bad are mine. But we're gonna just be frank and analyze, and we're gonna speak about setups, ideal, not ideal. Obviously it's all subjective depending on who you are, and yeah, we'll do a bit of a deep dive, so stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoy, and today we're just going to look at everything Impala.
Yeah, so it is the beginning of June now. Hunting season is actually in full swing, but I'd say this video is for experienced hunters to probably give us some crap about what our opinions are, but I'd say if you're a first time bow hunter, this should be good info to prepare you for your first animal. Although Impala is not probably the best thing to be your first animal with a bow, it's probably what most people's first animals are with a bow, because it's one of the cheaper things to hunt. So if you're a first time bow hunter and you're planning on shooting an Impala, I think this would be valid info to take into consideration. It's not the law, but it's, I mean, it worked for us.
As I said, it's all subjective, so we'll see in the comments down below if you guys have different opinions than us. Fair enough. I mean, it is what it is. It's hunting at the end of the day, and you do what works for you. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start with the basics, right? Impala, they're the McDonalds of the bushveld. They're everywhere. They're reddish brown color. If you see some nature documentary, you've seen them before. The rams have horns, the ewes don't have horns, and they're quite a medium-sized antelope. Super quick, very wakker, as we say in Afrikaans, awake, and that's why it makes them such a challenge to bow hunt sometimes, because any further distance shots are quite a bit of a trick. So they normally come forth in herds. You do get your alone rams and your bachelor herds.
On any game farm in the north of South Africa, you're going to have a Impala on the price list, and it's probably going to be one of the more affordable things to hunt. And I think the only consideration is if you're going during April, May, so early season, you're probably going to be hunting in the rut. So the rams will be going after one another, grunting and going mad. So you're probably going to see them, but you're not going to get a shot, especially not out of a blind over water or food or something. So if you're walking stalking, best time to try and get an Impala ram. But during April, May in the rut, from the eye, it's going to be a bit of a difficult one.
They're great biltong animals. They have great tasting meat, so that's why they're like a staple in South Africa, and they're called the McDonalds of the bushveld. So we made a quick revision to the set where we're sitting at. We in Malapa. Our friend has joined us, Frikkie. Frikkie is not, I don't think he's Roland Ward, but he'll do for today, and he doesn't run away.
We're not going to go into horn judging, because we are not good at that.
I'm very bad at it. But anyway, next on our little video for today, setup. So this, just a disclaimer before we get into it, because we're gonna get crap for this. It's all subjective. It's all based on what you prefer.
Opinion based on experience.
All based on opinion and experience and what we've been using in the past and what's worked for us. I think the first thing we'll get to, broadheads. We have some examples here that Paul's gonna just have a bit of a run through as to what he prefers.
So we'll go from least preferred to most preferred, I think. So the first example we have here is a 100 grain cut on contact. This is Oscut. Look, it works. I've actually shot an Impala with this broadhead, but you don't get a lot of blood. And if you make a mistake, Impala string jump you. If you make a mistake, you don't get a big cut. You're gonna miss the lungs if you hit a bit far back, or if you get a stomach shot, you're not going to get the damage that you're going to get with a big mechanical.
Yes.
This one's a slick trick 100 grain 4-blade, better than the Oscuts, but yeah, still blood trails are less than ideal. Same, this is a, what's this one called? It's the,
we'll call it broadhead number Z.
I'm going to get to it now. It's the elk-shaped guy's favorite one. We'll get to it, I'll put the name on it. This is a 125, a bit of a bigger cut, so you get getting it to tune, especially with fast arrows that you need for Impala, bit difficult, but still same. Small blood trail. If you shoot the animal in the X, it's gonna kill it. But if you have a 200-meter blood trail you need to follow up, you want one of these bad boys. So I think this is our favorite. There's a Rage 2 blade with about a 2-inch cutting diameter.
That's a chisel tip.
This is a chisel tip, one of the older ones. I actually forgot my active broadhead case at home. But this is a 125 2 blade, 2-inch mechanical
cut.
If you make a mistake, it's more forgiving. You can hit a bit further back, even if you miss the vitals and you hit like liver, kidney, those type of things. This will still do the damage. And then the last one's front deploying. This one actually comes from an Impala. Makes a lot of damage, but if you eat bones, not your...
Yeah, and for the big mechanicals like this front deploying one, if you're shooting lower poundages, so I know my girlfriend that shoots her bow, it's at 40 pounds now. I wouldn't advise a front deploying broadhead. It has a big cutting diameter, but you lose a lot of kinetic energy with the deployment process here, where it goes back like so. You know, you lose this one. Yeah, it's done its job, but you lose a lot of kinetic energy like that. So if you shoot lower poundages, Impala aren't very big, so you can get away with shooting a Rage still.
Look, this is now a strong opinion of mine, but if you shoot a 40-pound bow with a 400 grain arrow and you shoot this thing into Impala's shoulder bone, it's going to stop your arrow. If you shoot this exact same broadhead out of an 80-pound bow with a 600 grain arrow, it's still going to stop your arrow.
And if you shoot this thing with an 80-pound bow,
it's still going to stop.
And in the shoulder blade, the shoulder bone, it's going to stop.
The bones are hard, point, period, claw. So, yeah, I'll just say stay away from front deploying broadheads if you low poundage, but this is our Impala 2-blade Rage or Sever or whatever mechanical rear deploying.
It's preferred. I myself like the Rage hypodermics, specifically the no collar ones that they make now, and I'm going to I'm using some of the Severs as well this year. So yeah, that's our preferred broadheads. In terms of arrow weight,
so these are my arrows. We'd say anything between 400 and 500 grains probably.
You can get away with lighter as well if you have a lower poundage bow. I mean, it's all based on what works for your bow, what works for you. As I said, placement is everything. You can, with a lighter arrow, if you hit lungs, you're still going to get vitals. So it's just not necessarily going to be a pass-through, for example.
But I'd say if you shoot standard, everything from 50 to 70, 80 pounds, 420, this is a 450 grain arrow. That's going to be your sweet spot, in our opinion. I won't really go over 500 grains. We'll go into the example of I had this exact arrow with a heavier field point and a heavier insert, weighing 580 grains, and we'll show you what happened when I tried to shoot an Impala with that setup. But yeah, 420, 450 grains is probably what I'll recommend. If you could shoot, let's say, like Suroska's 40-pound bow, we'll say what? 400 grain, 380.
Yeah, her arrows are currently at closer to 380. Yeah, 380,
so
360.
That's what I'll recommend if I know how to tell someone who's going to go on his first hunt.
It's a trade-off between, because you can't go too heavy, you end up losing so much speed that because these Impala are so awake, you don't want to sacrifice too much speed, even on shorter distances. Like I've had an example here on 5 yards where I still had a bit of string jump. Not a lot, but a bit. So, arrow weight, it's all more bow dependent. You don't have to go ultra heavy because as I said, these animals aren't big.
They don't have a thick skin.
Yeah, you're not shooting an eland. I mean, we carried this thing all the way here now, so it's not a heavy animal. This one's rubber, but anyway. Bow wise as well, brands, we shoot whatever you want. We don't want to go into brand names because that's going to open a can of worms. Poundage, you can get away with lower pounds, specifically like my girlfriend shooting a 40-pound bow. If you have younger children shooting lighter bows, lighter poundage bows, they can still shoot Impalas. I would just say make sure about the behavior of the animal beforehand. It's something we're going to get into before you make a shot, because it's very important. If these Impalas are very high strung, and you have a slower bow, you're going to get string jump. So it's something to just take into account.
I'd say probably if you're now going to have a 40-pound bow shooting a 320 grain arrow, I'd probably just stay away from quartering to and quartering away, steep quartering away shots where you're gonna go through like 2 ribs. I'd still say a 40-pound bow with a 380 grain arrow, you'll probably still go through an Impala rib with one of these.
Yeah.
It's not, they're not.
It'll work.
Tanks.
It'll work, and you'll get your biltong, which
But
is
I'll
at the end of the day what you want.
Probably just stay away from quartering to and quartering away shots.
Yeah, slightly quartering away I find is sometimes a bit better than a,
but
than
not
a
like
full
some of the examples we're going to show you.
90-degree blanc dwarf shot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the setup overview. So just to recap, arrows don't have to be too heavy. These animals aren't tanks. Broadhead wise, I mean, you shoot what you prefer. I know there are fixed blade guys, there's mechanical guys, whatever you prefer. We are more mechanical, we like our mechanicals, and we would prefer shooting rages, but because these animals aren't as tough, you can get away with anything. There are pros and cons to each broadhead, like the cutting diameter.
I think people don't like the rage broadheads, but we've probably in the past 4 years shot, I don't know how many animals with rage broadheads, most of them. We've never had a failure, so I guess you're gonna like them until you have a failure. It happens a lot where you break off one blade and you replace that one blade, but that's part of it.
The animal dies at the end of the day, so
I'd rather replace a blade and have a dead animal than have a perfectly fine pass through of a single bevel cut on contact and the animal's running around. So
precisely.
We like the rages, you don't have to. We haven't had any issues. I know some people hate them, but we enjoy them. So that's where that comes from.
Cheers to that. Now we'll be getting into the interesting part where we're gonna have some examples set up for you guys here. We'll overlay it on the video. You won't just hear us speaking about it. We're gonna show you some general good shots, like in terms of when the animal is standing full side on. I mean, we just go up the front leg, third of the body. We have examples, quartering away, quartering to, how you'd want elevated, so shooting at angles. Examples of where some deflections have happened. Specifically, I've had a few. I don't know why normally it happens to me, but we'll see. And then there's a lot of examples of string jumps. So we're just going to go through them, show it to you guys, and then explain on the animal itself. And this would give you a rough idea of what is good shot placement, what is not so good shot placement. You also see that the finer technicalities of where you originally want to. For example, Paul likes to shoot a little bit lower than I, for example, end up shooting, and that's we all shoot on a vital area, but it's based on what you prefer. I mean, he's probably going to get more of the heart, and I'm just going to get
pass-throughs. Usually when you shoot lower, what we call in Afrikaans op die knoppe, you probably shoulder, you hit the opposite shoulder a lot. And then, as I said, regardless, I don't care if you shoot an 800 grain arrow, you're not going through a ball joint. So that's what happens a lot. You get a perfect hard shot, and then you hit the opposite shoulder, and your arrow stops, and you break an arrow. So that's where, if you shoot a bit higher, you get more pass-throughs.
I'm more prone to double lungs when you get, and then you get past.
And sometimes a better blood trail. Sometimes a pure hard shot leads to very little blood, surprisingly. If you just have one hole where it bleeds out, especially if the arrow's still stuck in there. So
then it doesn't bleed as much.
But yeah, let's jump
without further ado, let's get analyzing. Okay, so the first example is Botswana. We were hunting. I just want to get
2019.
Yeah, this was a while ago, and this was my shot on my Impala second day. Paul was filming me. You'll see. Let me just pause there for a second. The original placement, the red dot. What do you think?
Let's just first look at the behavior. You can see these animals are fairly relaxed. Another thing that's a good, if you have guinea fowl in with them, like in this example, guinea fowl are extremely vigilant, so they'll pick you up probably before the animals will pick you up, unless it's baboons, they'll probably pick you up first. But if you have guinea fowl and they are relaxed, the Impala will subsequently also be relaxed, and you can see their tail is tucked between their legs, which is usually an example of
it being a bit more high strung, but they are quite relaxed.
You can see these ones are relaxed, so string jump won't be.
Yeah, and even now, like you'll see this, the red dot is showing where the shot would have entered should the animal not have moved, which is a good shot. It's right with its front leg forward. It's exposing the vitals quite nicely. You'd probably get both lungs here and just a little bit above the heart. So you won't be hitting that aorta, but you could probably get both lungs here. The perfect shot that Paul would likely have wanted is just a smidge lower. And then, am I right?
Yeah,
a smidge lower, and then that would have probably had the top of the heart as well. And you'll see as I started now, the animal does duck me a bit, but I still end up getting double lungs. And
yeah,
then
it's like a 1-inch string jump.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a string jump, and this was at 15 yards in total. And yeah, I ended up hitting one of the guinea fowls behind, but we couldn't find it. It would have been 2 for the price of 1. This animal didn't really make it far. You'll see as it runs, there's blood from both sides pouring out because I got a clean pass through, and I think it ran 50 yards and we heard it falling. Yeah, it's in the video. So this one, it was at Begin last year. So
I'm gonna chip in here quickly.
Go for it.
So just something to note.
Okay.
As this Impala is standing now, it's reaching forward with its head to get to the water, which is pushing its blood. What's the blood in English? Its
like
shoulders back a bit. So if you shoot behind the shoulder here, because a lot of
the vitals are going forward essentially.
The vitals are sitting further forward. So this one, if you shoot behind the, if you go the rear of the leg, go up, and you shoot there. You're probably going to be behind the vitals, so the vitals are a bit further forward. So that's just something to notice if an animal is reaching for the water or its front legs are higher than the rear legs. Let's say they put their front legs on the cement of the crib.
Yeah.
It is something to note that the vitals might shift forward a bit in a general position, or the shoulder just goes further back.
Yeah, so, and to note where that elbow is, because you can see the elbow is being pushed up quite high, so don't shoot too low, because you end up hitting the elbow.
If you shoot where I typically shoot, you're probably going to hit the elbow, yeah.
Yeah, we'll play it through. So I ended up hitting at this Impala quite hard as well. It was also a good shot. He didn't make it far. I think he went 50, 60 yards and we got him.
So that was just on top of the elbow.
Yeah.
If you shot 2 inches lower, you might have had some problems.
Might have had some problems. To note as well, it looks quite a bit higher when the impact hits, like you guys are seeing now. But because he's all scrunched up like that, it just seems higher. But the angle is not actually as much. So you'll see there where the initial shot would have hit, I might have actually just hit the elbow, so the movement definitely helped me a bit. But yeah, this animal, sitter, got both lungs, and he ended up not going far. We see a big blood trail as he's running away. It's a good shot, and he doesn't go far. So next up are the quartering away shots. Slight quartering away, as Paul said, preferred. If you're sticking it in here, you're not having to mess with any of the bones here.
Yeah.
And it's quite an open area of just ribs that you can hit the vitals, and it's a good shot for any beginner, like slightly quartering away, not like steep quartering away. Like if you take it at this angle, probably a very much easier shot than having to mess straight dead on and making the shot pleasant. Both are good shots at the end of the day, and positions that I would advise on. But yeah, let's go. So the first one,
the general rule of thumb is if you shoot quartering away is just between the 2 front legs.
Yeah, or aim for the opposite side.
Opposite, but yeah.
If it's slightly quartering away, they say opposite. If it's very steep, between the two front legs. But yeah, that's about it, right?
We'll go through the examples now.
Yeah. So the first one is Leon, Begin, I think 2 years ago. This one is a good example of slightly quartering away.
Yeah.
That you're just aiming for, I'll make the dots post, but you're just aiming for straight up the opposite front leg.
Yes.
And if you hit it there, you can see now the shoulder's not in the way, it's just ribs. You might hit the opposite side shoulder, so you'll end up losing an arrow, but you get your animal. I mean, that's what you want at the end of the day. This animal didn't really even go far. I think that it died with inside of that blind still. So I'll just play it through here and we wait for the dots. So you see that it's, if anything, a slight bit high.
Yeah, so I think all of the shots we've shown now, the shot went in on the transition from dark to light red. I would prefer to have your shot go in the center of the light red section. This is still fine, the transition from dark to light, but I prefer to have it in the middle of the light red section.
But where he shot this animal, he's still getting both lungs. So you see with the red dot, it's gone in on the transition, as Paul said, from dark to lighter brown red. Getting both lungs, you're not hitting top of the heart though.
Yeah.
So
my natural aim would actually be probably on the yellow, on the white to light red transition. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have probably gone this much lower, just in the middle of the light brown section probably. But I mean, this is a perfect shot still, quartering away, just hitting ribs, getting both lungs. And then if we play it forward, so this animal, all the videos, by the way, of these clips are either on the Trigger Punch Bandits channel, right?
Yeah.
All the clips here are on Trigger Punch Bandits. So if you want to find the full hunt clip, you can just find it there. This animal died within sight of the blind, and Daniel and them filmed it. This was Leon's Impala, so it's a good quartering away shot, I would say. The next one,
this shows how low you can shoot an Impala.
Yeah, the next one is lower, like Paul said. This is a hard shot at the end of the day.
This was with a crossbow, so there's very little string jump.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. You can probably still get with quartering away. You can get away with the transition between white to light red.
Yeah, precisely. And this was hard shot. You see with the blood just gushing out that we annihilated the heart. And it was at 35 yards with the crossbow, so that's why the arrow is moving so quickly. But this is also a good example. This is a bit more quartering away, but
Still
we got
in between
heart.
the front legs.
In between the front legs, we got the heart, and this animal, I think, ran 100 yards. It ran a bit further. It ran 100 yards, and it was piled up in a heap. And you see when I continue, just the blood gushing out because we got the heart. So you can still get away with shooting the animal very low because the hearts are basically lying on the sternum, if I understand correctly, like the sternum being down here.
No, I don't have the expertise to comment on that.
I think so. That's in my mind, because the heart is very low on our African animals, and so you can get away with it. It's not like, I mean, don't go shooting specifically for the white. That I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't advise. I don't know if you would advise, but I wouldn't advise like shooting for the white the whole time.
No,
That's
as I
way
said,
too
I
low.
naturally shoot for just on top of the white.
Yeah, on top of the white, I go here normally in the middle of this brown stripe in the middle. Anyway, next one. This is an example of Paul was filming me. This was my Kransberg Impala, my first back tension animal.
And this is what you would say a steep quartering away shot. And the comments I'll put in here is the first one is that you might actually go through 2 ribs, where with a lighter arrow not ideal, and also you go through stomach, and there's nothing that slows an arrow or a bullet down more than stomach contents. So you might actually lose more penetration. The stomach contents it sometimes plugs the entrance and exit.
So you have no blood. Yeah.
You have no blood, so
well, we got no blood on this animal.
Yeah.
I remember because we saw it fall down. That's how we knew
Yes.
it was. But there was no blood trail.
So my 2 cents on these steep quartering shots is if you have won't do it with a low poundage bow, and just be aware that especially if you shoot it with a smaller fixed blade broadhead, that you might plug both your entrance and exit all with stomach contents and not get as good of a blood trail.
The animal will still die though.
Yeah.
But you have to go through a lot more material. So you'll see when I shoot my shot here.
That arrow, I mean, that's a 70-pound bow, 500 grain arrow.
Yeah, it was a 510 grain arrow, 70 pounds, and it hit the opposite side shoulder and just stopped dead. Initially, we thought the shot was a bit back, but upon inspection, like if you see the original placement,
you can't really shoot it on a better place.
like that's the optimal place to shoot it. On the angle, it's going straight into the pump station, and the animal didn't run far at all.
You won't be in trouble if you shoot 2 inches further forward.
Yeah. You'll still, if you shoot 2 inches further forward, you'll still end up getting lungs.
Yeah.
And probably the hearts as well.
Yes. But height-wise, I won't go lower than that.
Yeah, because on the angle you're going down.
You see a lot more. It looks like there's a lot of space down below, but that's because the stomach sits lower than the vital triangle. So that's I'd say a 9 out of 10 shot.
I have another example where it's even more steep, and we ended up chasing that animal quite far.
Yeah.
That Impala from Botswana, I think it's here. I'll overlay the video. So this, yeah, like it's very steep.
Camera angle's a bit deceiving. You shoot from the left of the camera.
Yeah, I'm more to the left of the camera even, so it's more quartering away for me. And I ended up like getting a slight deflection with, I was shooting a fixed blade, a Montec at the time, getting a slight deflection, an arrow ended up going over the vitals, out the neck, the way it was lying down. You guys can see in the post here.
Once again, initial shot placement
Was good.
Sure, you can maybe shoot it a bit further back if you do the same as the previous shot, but
it went straight through the 2 front legs and ended up missing the vitals somehow, going upwards instead of continuing its line down. And you always have to think about these things because your arrow is not always going to go straight through the animal.
Deflections is the one thing that you can't really control. You can manage it with having a well-tuned bow
and a sharp broadhead.
And yeah, we won't go into the debate whether fixed blades or mechanical is going to deflect more, but
I've had it with both at this point. So
but that's the one thing you can't control. As I said, everyone that took the shot that knows what they're doing would probably have aimed at a similar spot.
Maybe
you could have gone a tad lower
or a tad back.
Yeah, but
a tad lower, tad back. But I mean, this is in the middle of that brown section that we're aiming for. And on the angle, it might seem a bit high, who knows, but I was shooting down, so I was expecting the arrow to continue its line down, and it just went up. So this is an example of probably the steepest quartering away shot I've ever taken. We ended up getting the animal. We tracked it for 4Ks. We bumped it 3 times, which was my mistake, because we were too aggressive. We should have backed out on the first, like when we saw it wasn't, you know, in a heap somewhere 400 meters in.
Yeah, maybe on that note, even if you shoot a perfect shot, give it 30 minutes. It's the most difficult thing in the world to sit there and wait for 30 minutes if you know you shot a perfect shot. But give your animals some time. I think most of the times we've ran into problems with following up animals is being too quickly, and then you pump a bunch of adrenaline into their system, and then these animals become even more tough.
And then the meat doesn't taste as well because the adrenaline's now in the meat. But that's a side note based on taste. It's just this was an example of very steep quartering away. Okay, so we had a camera that stopped halfway somewhere in a sentence. I think we captured everything, but now that was all our quartering away example so far. So the next angle we have, it's a lot more risky. I wouldn't advise any beginner to really take it. I don't really advise anyone taking it. We do end up taking them because sometimes you just want the animal.
So backstory so one of these on my quartering 2 shot. This was at Ochibamba, our first trip there.
Yeah.
And I think this was the 3rd day, and I was still empty-handed. And these Impala came in, and I was like, I'm just itching to get something. And they were chilled. I was pretty confident in my skills at that time. And yeah, it was risky. It could have gone bad, very bad, but it went
good.
It went very good in the end. But yeah, quartering 2's last resort. So with the 3 animals here, the reason I didn't take one of the 2 quartering away shots was the little bushbuck was behind the one ewe, and if the front one, both the other ewes were behind them.
Yeah, so the angles were wrong.
The other 2 are like prime examples of perfect positions to shoot an animal in, but the quartering 2 one was the only one that gave me a shot, and as you can see, the rest of the herd starting to leave, so I was like itching to get this one.
And you'll see, like,
look, this is where you want to shoot. This is where you'd like to shoot your animal quartering 2, but I was lucky not to get any bones.
Yeah, like it stopped on the opposite side shoulder.
You can see the collarbone protruding, and I think I actually hit the collarbone on entrance, and it just went up a bit.
But it definitely hit the opposite side shoulder. Yeah, no, like that's what stopped it, because it went through the vitals.
So you can see sometimes where the like collarbones and shoulder bones protrude, like show in the skin of the animal, and try to miss that. But I was lucky. This is not advised, but just to show that it sometimes goes well as well.
You can do it. It's possible. It's not the best shot, and you can see. Like he hit this Impala hard. You still get good blood, luckily, because we're shooting rages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the shot, especially for beginners. I wouldn't advise it. I don't like taking quartering away.
And with Vian being a bit more prone to shooting higher, I actually think his scoring 2 shots are a bit safer. You don't put bones in the way.
You end up getting lungs.
And you get lungs, but you've had also a few rough rides with high quartering 2 shots.
So I have a warthog example as well, where the height on the quartering toward shot. So that's also another. I don't have it in here. I'll link the video up somewhere here. But it's, you don't want to shoot it. If you end up doing quartering towards, it's sometimes better to just go a bit higher, because you're going to clip the lungs at the top. And if you're shooting down, if you're shooting up, no, just don't shoot a quartering towards shot. Don't plan these kind of shots. They can work out. They are just high risk. Like even for the best archers, we definitely aren't the best archers, but even for the best archers, these aren't good shots. And so this is our quartering towards. I don't want to go too in depth on it because it's not the kind of shots you want to be taking. The next up shots would be elevated shots. The thing that makes and for this I'm going to explain on old Frikkie at the back here. The thing that makes an elevated shot a bit difficult, and why you always want to be cognizant of, is that you're now shooting from up above down, right? Normally you'd be shooting level or slightly below if you're in a pit blind, or just slightly above if you're in a normal blind, right? But on an elevated shot, you're obviously shooting down. So a lot of times, the normal height you would be shooting something is now not the best height because you're shooting down, right? And you might have a risk of going underneath the vitals. So then taking it a bit higher is sometimes a bit more, how can I put it, advised.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that, just personally. I don't aim at
but it
different
depends on
places
how elevated
on
you are.
elevate. Yeah, if you're not shooting, shoot straight down, different.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the more technical way to think about it.
The rule of thumb
is that you can have a higher entrance on a downward shot, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's just something to be cognizant of. If you're sitting high up in a tree, don't go shooting the animal on the white part, right? I mean, then you're gonna just scrape its sternum. Femur's there. Then you're just gonna scrape its sternum and do nothing to it. If you're shooting it here, you'll likely, if you're shooting it here, if you shoot at this angle, you're still gonna hit all the vitals, and it would be the better shot to take because you're gonna get more of the vitals. But you then run the risk again of hitting the spine.
Yeah, but I'd say for 80% of elevated blinds you'll hunt out of in South Africa, you can aim at the same place you would have aimed on a normal level shot.
Yeah, it's just something to be cognizant of. We don't have I don't know if we just don't have high trees in the country. We do, but they don't build the hides in them, or we just haven't hunted out of them before. This one is an example of that Envia did in Botswana. Again, it kind of shows what Paul was pointing out, because he shot this animal quite low because we weren't as elevated, right? But this was quite elevated. He shot quite forward. Animal fell within sight of the blind. Overall, a great shot still. This animal didn't go very far, and I think he ended up getting heart mostly, if I were to predict. It's right in the crease here.
Yeah.
Right in the crease
Nothing
of the animal.
wrong with that shot.
Good shot. Animal didn't go very far. It's where I would put it. You can even, because it's quartering away, you can get away with placing it slightly backwards, because it is definitely quartering away. But it just goes to show how far that was in the crease of its front leg. But you can even go a bit further back on the ribs. Good shots all the way. Animal died within sight of the blind. We actually, this is a specific one, we drug, hid behind the blind, got back in, continued hunting.
Grim Reaper.
Was it with that?
No. I just remembered the name.
Grim Reaper. It's
the same brand as this one, actually.
A Grim
I
Reaper.
think so.
So that's all the. So we have some. I showed you guys the other elevated example, and now the next topic we're gonna go to, and this is probably the one that you'll hear a lot bow hunting. It's called string jumping. Impala are probably the best example of an animal that string jumps. Like warthog are known as well, but their legs are a bit shorter, so they don't have that much disparity when they duck down. Essentially what string jumping is the animal's ducking down to get ready to spring load itself and run off, right? And that in the flight of the arrow, I mean, where you originally aimed, the animal's now ducking down because it's heard the arrow inbound, or heard your bow, or whatever, it's hearing something, and then it's ducking and you have risk of going over it. So the first example we'll show you is probably like the best example we have. You can go for it.
This is where I had this arrow loaded just to almost 600 grains, like a Ranch Ferry Piss missile. But I don't think arrow weight really played a part here. Look, if the Impala looks at you, especially, so this was on walk and stalk, regardless how fast you're shooting, it's going to string jump you. They are just faster than arrows. So that's where you need to judge the behavior of your animal that you're hunting. Like, most people that have hunted a fair bit in their life would have said, could have guessed the outcome of the shot before it happened.
Yeah, because it was.
But this was
awake.
like the third day of chasing after these animals on foot, and I was like, let's just try it. But yeah, this is just to showcase how fast
these animals are. And what was the distance on this shot?
I think it was 43 yards, so it is far.
Well, 43 yards, I mean, it's far, but it's not ridiculously far.
Yeah.
Like, the reaction time on these animals are just insane. And so this is a 43 yard shot. Paul's bow is quite quick, right?
Yeah, it's not the fastest bow, but I'd say this is like a 280 foot per second.
Yeah, quite quick with a heavy arrow, and this animal just made it seem like the bow was in slow motion, basically. You'll see and I have a little red dot to show, like, he would have hit that animal in the crease frontal. I mean, I don't have really too many frontal examples, but I would not advise frontal shots for beginners. I have never even taken a frontal shot. He would have hit that animal very well.
Yeah,
I would say on the angle, missed the right front shoulder and gone into the pump station. But then when we play it through, you'll see the animal just ducks. Arrow goes straight over its back, and it's like, sayonara, see you later.
Yeah, so that's where I almost want to say, if you're a good shot and you can take a 70-yard shot on an impala that doesn't know you there, that now being that you are a good shot, you probably have a better chance of getting a good shot in than a 30 or 40-yard shot where the animal is looking at you. Like, I prefer to shoot the animal at 70 yards with it looking away than
and it's so far away that it's almost not hearing the bow anymore.
Yeah, so
it's not hearing, but it might still hear the arrow flight, because the vanes make quite a whine. This is
the more typical example of what you
like a 9-yard string jump. Yes, disclaimer, this was a wound, it's not a kill shot. I just had to show it because obviously everyone, like, if you bow hunt long enough, you're going to wound an animal. It just is what it is. The arrow definitely started high. This animal was at 9 yards and still managed to string jump me. But if you look at its behavior, you can understand why. It was jittery. This was the last day of the hunt and I hadn't shot anything yet, but that's why I took the shot. I ended up harvesting the bigger impala just later in the afternoon. But you can see he's very jittery. He's not relaxed. He's not even drinking water yet, which is a key rookie mistake. Like, you don't, except if the impala are very relaxed, if they're wanting to come into the water and they have not reached the water yet, don't take the shot, because they're very high strung. There's a reason they've not started drinking water yet. They're very much aware and trying to gauge the surroundings still. So I'll play it through and then we can discuss it. You see it's looking around. It's not wanting to come drink just yet, and it's seeing something else. You can see it's jittery.
It might actually have been spelling you guys.
Yeah,
looking at that,
you see it's jittery. It's not relaxed. It's wanting to drink, but it's not wanting to come in yet. And that is an example of how not to shoot an animal. Because it would have hit the shot.
That's where you aimed.
That's where it would have hit if the animal.
Yeah, see, that's too high.
That's not where I aimed though. Like, I aimed a lot lower. Like, I'm not going to shoot there. That was I think it was probably trigger. I was still shooting a Satan strap. Index release, and I had this thing where I didn't have target panic, like 6 o'clock lock or something, but right before I shoot, I think I would twitch, and this is why I went over to back tinge to begin with. So the arrow wouldn't have hit the impala in a very good place. I think this probably actually.
This is where it bites you a bit if you tend to shoot higher.
A bit higher, and then you even see though, like when I shoot at 9 yards, how much that animal ducks to make a bad shot a very bad shot.
A focal.
Because it would have been high. It would have probably clipped the lung.
This animal probably survived.
Yeah, it's probably not even dead yet, but you can see how much it ducks on 9 yards. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, that's what, 2 inches?
Yeah.
It's a 2-inch duck on 9 yards. Imagine this thing was at 20 yards.
Yeah.
How much
you probably would have missed it completely.
Yeah, like, this is why you wait for the animals to be relaxed. I made a very, very much a rookie mistake here and ended up wounding it because the arrow hits like above the spine. There's no vitals there. It's a no man's land, and I didn't even get my arrow back. So not only did I not get the animal, I didn't even get the arrow back. So it's an example of why you don't want to end up shooting too high. I obviously didn't do this on purpose. It just ended up happening. Ideally, I would have shot the animal there, like in where the light brown section goes, like in the middle of the leg. Then I think I would have still been fine. I would have hit a bit higher.
You might have clipped the shoulder blade, which might have contributed to some deflections and stuff.
But it would have died, most likely. But yeah, this is an example of why what string jump can do. I mean, even on 9 yards, these animals are just known for it. And it's not where you want to be. So try to do everything you can in your power to not do that. That concludes all the little sections we want. I think we covered deflections quite thoroughly throughout the clips because I had some clips lined up. I did show them to you. And they do happen. You can't control them. We already went into it. So just a recap on everything we now spoke. General good shots on Frikkie here. If the animal is facing you side on like this, I mean,
Straight up the leg, 3/4 down.
yeah,
Pop.
straight up the leg, third of the body, there on the leg. I mean, if you shoot here, you're still getting lungs.
But this is dangerous because that's no man's land.
Yeah, yeah, this is now starting to
There
get no
you
man's
still
land
kill it.
again. Yeah, yeah.
There you wound it.
That's one thing to note. Lungs sit quite high. Like, I mean, you guys saw me hit lungs even when I hit an animal here. Caveat, because I shot it so high, and this is an issue with height, is the hole is above where the pump station is.
So you need to bleed the entire vital cavity full before you start getting blood.
Any blood.
pumping
So
out.
we got no blood. We got lucky with the dogs after about 2 hours of searching, and we found the animals. So it's not ideal to hit high. It just isn't. But recapping, general good shots. I mean, here, straight up the front leg, third of the body, side on, great. Slightly quartering away if I'm shooting from where I'm seeing the animal now. I mean, even better for beginners because the height stays the same. You can just go behind the shoulder in the crease and a bit behind, aiming for the opposite side front leg or in between, because then you're going to hit vitals. This is for the beginners, probably the easiest shot because you have a very low risk of hitting bones and stuff, which is great. Quartering towards, ill-advised. I wouldn't advise it. Not for beginners, not for seasoned veterans. You can shoot a missile for like if you're hitting that front shoulder bone, arrow's not going through. So I'll not advise it. Frontal, I've never taken a frontal shot personally.
I've tried. I haven't succeeded.
You tried, as we saw. I know a lot of bow hunters do it. You have a nicer hole than a quartering towards. There's a nicer hole there.
The thing is, then the animal looks at you, so the chances of it seeing the arrow coming.
Especially with Impala that are very awake.
Yeah.
Like if it's a Wildebeest or something that's slower. Well, a Wildebeest is a bad example because they're tough as shit. But something that's a bit slower, fair enough.
I think for the purpose of this video, just
don't worry about
away.
frontal on Impala. If you're brave enough to do it, that's on you. I'm not brave enough to do it. I'm saying this now, touch wood, I'm not going to do it this year. And then elevated, if you're very high up, start thinking about shooting a slight bit higher, but as Paul said, 90% of the time you wouldn't have to worry. Just shoot your same spots as you would quartering away or side on. Don't now all of a sudden start thinking about chipping it into the neck or something, because it's still quite dangerous. There's still a lot of bones and stuff that go here and that stop you from getting to the vitals. I think that about covers it. And string jumping. Always be cognizant of a possible string jump with these animals.
But
it just always happens.
Don't compensate for it. There's an example, we can put that clip in here. I shot an Impala ram at 45, 43 yards, somewhere around there.
Oh, yeah.
It was standing in the shade, really rustig.
Relaxed.
And I compensated for string jump and I aimed lower and I literally hit it like somewhere here. And I got a deflection, it went up into the vital cavity. So don't start compensating for string jumps, just be aware of it. Is what I'd say.
You can't, except if you're like shooting 200 yards. I wouldn't, or 100 yards, 200 is a bit like extreme. Like I wouldn't advise compensating for string jump. No. If you want, I mean,
don't
it's your
compensate
choice.
To the point where you're gonna miss it if it doesn't string jump.
Yeah.
You can compensate by aiming for the
you can compensate for a low hard shot.
And a low hard shot that might end up in a lung shot, but don't compensate for the elbow that ends up in a hard shot. That's not
I mean, that's a risky
to go.
That's risky business. So always be cognizant of string jump. Don't compensate necessarily for it, especially on 20 yards. I feel like if you just shoot true and you're gonna go top of heart, a bit low, maybe heart, you'll likely always get lungs. Like I've never had a thing on 20 yards where it string jumped me over. But
if your initial shot
was good placed, check behavior. Always
That's
check.
the most important.
Precisely. Always check Impala behavior. As Paul said, it's the most important. If they're jittery, don't take the shot.
Yeah.
I know. I've also
patient.
been very desperate and taken the shot. It happens.
We all do it, but
but don't. If you're a beginner, if you want to go home sad,
rather go home empty-handed, not taking a shot, than going home empty-handed, taking a shot and having to wound an animal.
And and that's because we pay our own animals, so we're not gonna risk our money.
Yeah.
But be cognizant of the behavior. It's more tough a lot of times when the animals are in a herd. because you have a lot of pairs of eyes that are very awake. As Paul said, they're looking at the guinea fowls' reactions, they're looking at the baboons' reactions if they're very awake. So be cognizant of the behavior and make sure they're all relaxed. That way you'll have the highest chance of success. Obviously it remains hunting.
Yeah.
Even if they're relaxed, they can string jump. Even if they're jittery, they don't sometimes. So you can't, nothing is a consistent, like, clear cut rule. Precisely. But yeah, I mean, if you follow most of that, I would say 90% of the time, if your shot placement's fine, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and if you don't have target panic, and if you're actually a good shot, make sure you're not the poo-poo.
If it's not user error, then if you sort out the user and you've done as much as possible from your end to be as good shot as possible, you'll be fine. If you're following, you know, the basics we just covered here, recapping everything, as I said, I mean, you must use what's working for you and your bow and what you feel the most confident in. That's what we found. We are confident in our rage hypodermic. I'm confident in my rage hypodermics and a bit of severs. He's confident in his rages. If you are confident in a different broadhead, use that broadhead.
Yeah.
Like, don't go changing broadheads just because someone said so. Confidence is key. Confidence is key. So yeah, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great hunting season. It's the 1st of June. I would have had 2 hunts in May, but they unfortunately fell through, so I'm itching to get out there. We have 2 weekends, then we're going hunting. Trigger Punch Bandits are going hunting in 2 weekends. Hopefully we're going to be lucky. I'm going to bring the old lead thrower as well as the carbon fiber chucker, and we'll see if we harvest anything. If we do, there'll be some more videos on the channel about that. If we don't, there'll be some more videos on the channel about that as well. Remember to like the video down below if you enjoyed it, and comment down below if you guys found it helpful, or if you have any other opinions that you might have on these Impala, if you're like a veteran, or you have any questions, ask them below. We always answer. So yeah, with that being said, I don't know if you want anything to say anything else.
We brought fire.
We
brought fire.
That's okay.
That's all.
That's all. Cheers.